covered trap. It is obvious when humans pick up their energy needs from the air. When we inhale, the rotation present in the gas is picked up, which is then absent when we exhale. As a result, the gas does not change its material composition, but can still make a significant contribution to the energy in the body. When we have the feeling of stale air, this statement seems to refer only to rotation. Stale air still rotates too, just much more slowly. We can breathe it in and draw energy from it, just much less. If we put a plastic bag over our head, after a few cycles there is no more rotation and the end is reached. This is based on the model from Gas and Water and part 1 of this presentation. As a reminder, if we compare the original structure of gas 2 with the one valid today, in which the point-like electrons would crash into the nucleus over time, which is why Bohr suspends the rules of electrical engineering to save his model, an arbitrary postulate, but his colleagues wanted this, because for them the evil seemed smaller than when the electron expands to 30,000 times its value. In fact, today we can go back to the original structure, having deduced the variation in size. From the positively charged core, the arrows go outwards. They indicate the direction of the electric field strength. Each electron spins with the electron spin. Along the way, each sphere generates a magnetic field. The spheres take each other by the hand magnetically and thus avoid crashing into the nucleus. The next picture shows oxygen, as O2, as it occurs in the air. Here, 4 ring electrons come from each O atom. 2 form the innermost and 2 form the double bond with the other partner. In the case of nitrogen, which in principle can never exist monoatomically, there will be a single bond instead, depending on the possibility of rotation 2 of the entire ring. The magnetic field B can be seen, clearly visible from the side. According to Avogadro's principle, all gases have the identical number of particles at the same temperature, pressure and volume. They all have the same ring size. They therefore have the same volume and differ only in the weight of the particles. Avogadro's number is 6 times 10 to the power of 23 particles per mole. Avogadro's law is only valid for n equals 2 with 8 electrons in the ring. The Avogadro constant has been elevated to a fundamental natural constant in 2019 as a replacement for the variable diameter of the proton. It also no longer has a scattering range. Furthermore, every gas molecule has built up an aura around itself into which no other is able to penetrate. But the Avogadro number can be derived very precisely, and once again the natural constant is no longer a constant. If you want to follow the derivation, you can stop the video now. Via the blood circulation, the rotational energy is absorbed by the gas molecules with the help of ADP, adenosine D-phosphate, and transported away to the mitochondria. The ATP responsible for muscle activity, the adenosine triphosphate, is also detectable in the blood, but is no longer active in the lungs. The picture shows 2 compensating gas molecules. They turn against each other so that the inhaled air appears non-magnetic. But first the breathing gas has to be broken down, because it is always compensated thanks to its high mobility. In the air, pairs are formed due to the opposite rotation, while one gas molecule, seen from one side, rotates to the right and thus creates a magnetic south pole. The neighboring molecule with a left-hand rotation will cause the north pole, seen from the outside. Both gas molecules are thus non-magnetic, that is compensated. Assuming that the south pole particle has reached a phosphorus atom of the ADP tail, the phosphorus tail takes over the rotation. The second phosphorus atom comes very close to the first, is thereby magnetically gripped by its partner and reversed in polarity. This reversal of polarity must not be influenced or prevented from the outside, because otherwise the polarity is cancelled and the energy supply is immediately cut off. The rotation of the electron ring is not measured. It is also not included in the energy balance. If the air is used up, we open the windows and ventilate. Stale air can also be breathed in, but with a loss of rotation and thus of magnetic field. In this way, the exchange of a weak magnetic field for a strong one can take place. Initially, non-magnetic air is also breathed in, but it is magnetically aligned in the lungs or in the mitochondria, collected and transported away. The ADP, the adenosine D-phosphate, is therefore responsible for the removal of the rotation through the bloodstream. As shown in the picture, the transfer of rotation from the gas to the ADP molecule takes place in our lungs. First, only one gas molecule takes the rotation from a phosphorus. The radius becomes smaller and the rotation becomes faster. The other partner suddenly lacks compensation. He feels the strong magnetic field, which reverses his direction of rotation and attracts him. Now both gas molecules rotate in the same direction. The finished ADP molecule, loaded with energy, can go on its journey, while the low energy ones have no more strength, so they cannot hold on and are exhaled. This model very clearly describes the processes in the lungs, in contrast to the model taught today, but it also makes clear the weak points of the system, what I would like to call the COVID trap. First of all, the advantages of the respiratory system for land dwellers should be emphasized. It is insensitive to static and low frequency superimpositions. Even high frequencies up to 1 GHz have only a minor influence, but ultra high frequencies, such as microwaves and above, can interfere with or impede the turning of gas molecules. Conjectures are based on 60 GHz, at which spontaneous death can occur under certain circumstances. If, at a certain maximum frequency, the gas ring can no longer be taken up by the phosphorus tail of the ADP, then we instantly get no more energy. In this way, whole flocks of birds have been taken out of the sky in flight during tests. The deadly frequency was switched off again as quickly as possible. They kept quiet about it and covered up the crime against nature. The telecom industry left it up to individual courageous citizens to report on the murder of the animals in alternative media to denigrate them as cranks and conspiracy theorists. In my mind, I would like to conclude, after the transfer of the rotation and the transport, the refinement and the takeover of the rotation from the ADP by the ATP occurs in the mitochondria. The ATP molecule has a tail extended by one phosphorus. Now the transport continues to the muscle cells, the heart muscle and the thought apparatus. Use of rotation occurs as needed. Therefore, ATP and ADP with a lot and with little rotation energy can be detected in the blood everywhere. Problems can occur with the rotation of the gas molecules if a superposition of maximum frequency occurs. However, not a single mobile radio technician recognizes this. Instead, the transmitting power is reduced accordingly and the number of transmitters is increased. Meanwhile, no streetlight is safe from being converted into a transmitter. Frequency-dependent limits must be introduced to protect people and nature, as the author had publicly demanded in presentations more than 20 years ago. Perhaps the COVID trap had to hit us first, putting the whole nation under suspicion for years and blaming helping doctors for a technical deficiency for which they can do absolutely nothing. More than 20 years ago, the claim was, the first resonance with water colloids occurs at 2.4 GHz. As an example, consider the microwave oven. Its use seems taboo, even more so above 2.4 GHz. Moreover, 2.4 GHz must not be reached by superimposing two neighboring transmitters. Of course, this is especially true for the 60 GHz. This demand on the mobile radio industry has not changed until today.